Facebook. We are back. We have changed the background a little bit. Welcome to our Wednesday weekly chat about leadership and all things involved in the process of connecting with humans. I'm here with my good buddy, Philip Folsom, who is the leader of the Wolf Tribe and the Men's K4 group. And I am Colonel Garth Massey from Command Ready, which I think you already know because you're on our site. But every week we get together and do a live broadcast and then post it up for you to talk about the things that are making us better, worse, building teams, losing teams, all the stuff that just makes the struggle worthwhile. So with that introduction, Philip, what do we got on the docket today? Because I know it's a good one.
Yes, we are going to chop up the concept of resiliency and
topical.
We personally vital right now in terms of how we manage to get together and navigate through these turbulent times that we're all experiencing across the board. And I'll just launch into this with the boots on the ground with one of my favorite quotes from Africa that is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Resiliency is a byproduct of collaboration, belonging, kinship. And when we become isolated, diffused, we start to crumble. So here we go.
And here's my thing. Because it is the day after a national election, you might think we're going to talk about that. But actually, that's not the resiliency I'm worried about, because my day-to-day doesn't touch the federal level too often. I mean, apart from my role in the Marine Corps, right? But my day-to-day is actually affected by how business is doing and how companies are doing and how people are doing, and whether people are able to be resilient to the strain put on them by their bills and their taxes and their job and their unknown circumstances on their housing and having kids, having teenagers. Like, there are so many things that put pressure on us. And I think it's rather short-sighted to put a pin on one item and say, because of this, my life and I am unhappy. And I think at its core, when I think resiliency, I think what happens is people become lone eagle issue folks, and they start to lose perspective on the broader world, and they start focusing on one issue that they can attribute all their problems and their angst and their stress to. And that one issue is easy to manipulate and see whatever you want to see in it. And I think that's where people run into a lot of trouble. So I just want to start by saying, hey, if we're going to talk resiliency, we got to talk about whole life, not, what's happening in the news or, that kind of thing. So, but where do we start then?
I'll go way back very quickly with just an overview of the fact that we're designed to be resilient in terms of our individual selves and our small collective units. And this is through a long, long period of time that we have survived. So we are resilient. Most of those resiliency systems and protocol, which are internal and external, are based on short-term trauma, which is, ice ages and polar bears and, events that are very quick, and we're designed to go into a activated parasympathetic or sympathetic state where we, shut down critical thinking and digestion, and we solve the issue, and then we regulate and we drop back to stasis where we're functional and low stress, low cortisol. The change that has happened progressively at larger and larger is we're no longer in short-term trauma. We're in ongoing chronic stress, which means we're drowned in cortisol. And this means there has to be some intentional and artificial response to an artificial environment of high stress. So resiliency protocol, whether that be morning rituals, yoga, meditation, self-care, intentionally getting out into the wilderness, really building those kinship or belonging, community, co-worker connections are vital for building resiliency during these times.
Right. No, I mean, you make a great point, right? Whether you call it a morning routine or, your resiliency protocols, I like that. That protocol sounds awesome.
Yes.
Your resiliency protocol. And it's funny as you say that, I think of two immediate things. One, you got to exercise because our constant battering and stressors from our worldly environment, like you said, it elevates our cortisol and it's making us nuts all the time. Exercise can counter that. And then the second one is you got to turn off the TV, like turn off the phones, turn off the TV. You have to find a place where you can reconnect with the human side. And I think some of the most resilient people I know are the ones who read books and go for walks and, take time with their families. Like that kind of stuff matters. But if you're looking at your business, right? Like, the business world has changed. So I'm a real estate agent, or I'm a insurance salesman, or I'm a, mid-level manager at a corporation, right? How do I not become consumed with worry? Because what's happening is this is adaptability, right? Ulysses Grant was famously in a battle at the very beginning of the Civil War, and it was going rough. And a politician walks up from the rear of the position, and as you walk up from the rear, you see the hospital beds, and you see the deserters, and you see the stragglers, and you see the wounded walking away. And he gets to the front, and he says, "This is going badly. It looks like you're losing." And Grant just turned to him and said, "Really? Well, I challenge you to come around at us from the other side and tell me how it looks." He's saying, on the front, we are fighting and we are winning. You just walked up and saw all the negative news and you missed the perspective of the good news. So wars are not won and lost primarily because you've run out of bullets. They're won or lost because mentally you've decided you can't win. So that mindset is so key. And it doesn't matter whether you're a small business owner or in a company, the mindset that you can create your path and you can set objectives and you can work towards those things. And the rest of it is kind of noise that if you pay attention to, you'll believe, but is it helping you get to where you need to be? And actually, I mean, you're more of an expert on this one than I am. I can talk battlefield stories about it, but if you are having a dark day right now, right? If you're in a place where you've lost the vision of what it looks like from the enemy's perspective, right? And maybe your mission is off, right? You don't know what you're working on because you're sitting in your home office and you're not wearing pants and you're playing in front of Zoom all day. What do you do? Like when they call Philip Folsom and go, I'm disconnected. What do I do?
Okay, great point. We definitely are skewed by our perspective. That is a vastly important thing to realize, that to step back and look at the actual 20,000 foot view of the battlefield, if you will. We're doing pretty good as humans, just to shed a little ray of light where famine is down, war is down, plague is down. Look, we're doing all right. It's not gloom and doom. Like, we're doing okay. The big one, just to rattle off some best practices about resiliency, and I want to give you some individual personal resiliency protocol.
Okay.
And then we're going to do organizational. I'll give you 4. It'll be really quick if you want to write these down. So individual protocol, we talked about the big cause of the symptoms of chronic stress and trauma is cortisol related inflammation and all the things that it does to us. And it's literally killing us. Isolation is killing us because of that cortisol. So serotonin is the balance for that. Serotonin is what you get, like when you said, go to nature, turn off the TV. You're limiting your cortisol and you're increasing serotonin. Pet a dog, big animals, really, really important. Take your shoes off, walk outside, really, really important. There's a whole bunch of things that are absolutely vital for, boosting our serotonin. Exercise, just hits that cocktail of really important things. And any kind of mindfulness stuff that you're doing in the morning is vastly more effective because you can own, you control. That's your time before the world has its way with you. So get your exercise in, do your meditation, your prayer, your mindfulness, your nutrition, like lock in those things. And the mindset that you're talking about, Garth, journal, do some gratitude. Like, this is how you become, that's your beautiful book. You become the author of your story, as opposed to just this passenger being swept downstream by your perspective, which is, ooh, hospital beds, or, ooh, we're actually pretty impressive from the outside.
Right.
So that individual protocol is something that we have to shape. And guys, practices are vital. The habits that we've developed over time are only based on efficiency. They're based on just maintaining what is easy. It doesn't get us to where we want to go. So if we want to change the story and reclaim that narrative, you have to move to practices instead of habits. And practices are based on growth, right? And they're always uncomfortable. So it's hard to do, and particularly hard to do alone. So this is when you need accountability, need a network. Incredibly important.
When you talk about building practices, I think another key term there is it has to be done with intentionality. Like, and maybe you said that, and I heard you wrong in a moment, but every time I've set a goal out without establishing the process or the habits that lead to the goal, I fail. I can want to win the lottery, but I got to buy a ticket. Even then I'll probably lose, but like you have to do the steps, but we tend to focus on what the end state is to the exclusion of the steps. And so I think you need to put intentional focus into the baby steps. So tell me if I'm wrong. I got cortisol, right? So stress.
Bad.
I got isolation.
Bad.
Which is bad. I got pet a dog, which universally means like connect with things that help you serotonin, help you calm, all that. And then walk outside and be mindful. Like whether that is, like you said, meditation, prayer is great. Talking with a friend. I mean, even this, if you've been watching us, doing this Facebook Live is part of my mindfulness routine because I get to connect with Philip and with anybody who puts comments in the comment line. So those are 4 great things.
Hey, let me get one more. This little bonus item, and a lot of research done recently on breath work, which is a very popular piece. It's actually as ancient as we are. Anytime that you're saying a Hail Mary, or you're saying Om, or whatever it is, you're breathing, right? And the reason why breath work is so effective is that your breath is something that's automatic. It's autonomic. It just happens if you're not thinking about it. None of you have thought about breathing this whole talk so far. However, it's one of those things that we can choose to take over. And so it kind of is a metaphoric piece, but it's also connected to what's called your vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body. And it connects your basically gut brain to your heart, literally your heart, and then controls your brainstem and all your functions. So you can take long, slow, deep breaths, which correspond to a low cortisol, relaxed state, in which case your breath is actually driving your brain to go, oh, we're relaxed now. Let me turn off the cortisol and let me get into a regulated parasympathetic state where life is good. So long, slow breaths, and generally in count of 4, out, breath out of 6. And if you do that a number of times, you're literally can regulate your emotional state. And it might look weird sitting at your desk doing that, but we're working remote anyway. So don't be afraid to get weird and do the slow breath.
Everything looks weird right now. Like there's weird all over the place. Yeah. But okay, so breathing. And then in just to put it in terms I understand, I mean, we talk about taking the initiative a lot. In the military, in fact, in maneuver warfare, when you're just 2 armies or 2 contesting companies or 2 battles of wills, and you're just this all the time, you wear everybody down and you get nowhere. We develop what's called maneuver warfare. So you present this face because that's what everybody expects, and then you have this guy that goes out to the side and does something, right? Or you find a different center of gravity, like a different thing that offsets your competitors or your competition or whatever. To do that requires initiative. Initiative requires you to understand what you want and then do something intentional to change the outcome. And that is all those things. I mean, the basic principle of taking the initiative means you have to take initiative in your life to breathe, to walk, to talk to other people, to do the things that reduce your stress and increase, your mindfulness, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're getting at. And that's 100%. Awesome for an individual. But what about when we're swamped in an organization? Because you said you had group stuff too.
I
So
got
let's
four
do
things.
that, and then we got to close out.
Okay. So basically, there are four really well-researched pillars of organizational resiliency. Leaders, if you are somebody who's making decisions that affect other people, which means maybe you're even part of a family, right? If you're watching this and the decisions you make are affecting other people, here's what they need. And there's four things. Number one, people need hope. This is just what you alluded to when it's the difference between the hospital beds or that impressive front line. The same army, but hope gives you that perspective. And Napoleon said, a leader is a dealer in hope. So it doesn't even have to be grounded in anything particularly realistic. It's just say, hey, let's look at the front of the army instead of the back. It's just, that's hope. Okay. Number two, we have to have some sort of plan. And again, it's never going to be perfect, but when a human doesn't have a plan, our subconscious has to prepare for everything.
Right.
And that is just the nuclear bomb of anxiety to go, I have no idea what's going to happen in this next cycle of business or elections or social unrest or COVID. I have to prepare for everything. So let's hoard the toilet paper, right? It's madness. Number three, humans are predators. We are built for playing offense. We need to recognize that there is a locus of control. There's some step I can take. Even political prisoners who are in solitary confinement, if you own your space, then you will not go crazy. So resiliency is based on there's some step I can take. And no matter how gloom and doom and depressed and sad and disfranchised you are, you have an action step. If you look around and go, yes, own your efficacy. So number three is some sort of action step. And lastly, and this is the big gun, this is the queen on the chessboard, a sense of belonging. A sense of belonging is the number one driver of resiliency. The lone wolf dies. And so even though we're working remotely and we are socially distancing, right? We're really not. We're just physically distancing. So stay connected. Do this. Give us a a comment, share, connect, whatever that looks like for you. That sense of belonging, literally, because we're pack animals, drives resiliency.
Right. Okay. Hope, love it. Plan, mandatory skill for any leader. I mean, you provide purpose and direction as a leader, but if you don't have a plan, you're just, waving the feel good flag, and that's not helpful. Own your space, which is yes, that's everything. Like not only own sort of your mindset and your outlook, but your actions. That's that intentionality. And when you have a team, like letting the team know, love it. And then belonging. Yeah, there's something to be said for even groups that are not functioning well shape an identity. Like, there are lots of organizations that are awful, but they form an identity and they stick together because they have the identity and they can't let it go. Like we all want to belong. I mean, your whole tribe thing, like if we don't belong to something, if we are left isolated, we die. Babies that are not touched as babies die. People that are alone and look at us. Like, I mean, I have the benefit of 6 children, so I get touched all day long and play all day long, but there are a lot of people who are isolated. And it's our job as leaders to reach out and find ways to connect with them. So those are huge. And I love it. It's a good list. All right. So now we got action steps. We have action steps as individuals. We have action steps as groups, and we understand maybe, that resiliency is something that you can take an active role in. It's not a passive role kind of thing.
Yep.
So like for me, I'm looking at business. I'm looking at, what's going to open up, what's not going to open up. And I got to tell you, like there is hope if you talk about the message of hope. In fact, as a teaser, right, in the spring, Philip and I have a very exclusive surprise. The Command Ready program and the Wolf Tribe program have worked together for, 4 or 5 years now. And we may be looking at an offsite location, someplace where the air is thin and clean. And we'll get back to you more on that, but something for us to look forward to. And then the people who come to it are going to walk away with a whole lot of tools in the toolkit. So that's a good thing. And that's it. I think that's us for this Wednesday. Resiliency.
It is. It is.
Yeah. So
So
do us a favor. If you haven't already and you've made it this far, hit like a bunch, hit share. Because that is going to help us get the word out. And Philip provides cultural and tribe work for organizations looking to function smoother. And I provide work to individuals who are leveling up their leadership skills, the blocking and tackling, the actual skill sets to create the plan and to give purpose and direction to organizations. And we would love to be connected with more folks. So reach out to us. We love direct messages, and have a great Wednesday.
Okay, guys, stay connected, stay committed.
All right. And now, goodbye.
Goodbye.